Hey, everybody, I'm Scott, and when I drink alcohol, I can't stop, and I hurt people I love, and then I isolate. So instead, I choose fellowship, life, and love over alcohol and addiction. This is the story of Scott. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the chime like this. Bring. Anyway, it's about me, but really, is it about me? Is it about my mother? Isn't that what it all comes down to? Um, it's like it's like everything is Freud, right? Um, I think there's a saying: if you show me an addict, I'll show you somebody with trauma. And I had a tumultuous childhood. It wasn't fun. It My mom was a very difficult person. She had everything together. She looked a beautiful house, gorgeous. We weren't allowed to be in it. There was one section of the house where the kids were allowed to be. We weren't allowed to sit on the couch. I wasn't allowed in her room. My mom was very strict, and it was a very tumultuous thing. There was always constant fight. It was just strange. As a child, I had an adversarial relationship with my mother at 5 years old, which was not fun. And I don't know if I was a bad kid or if I was just a difficult kid. Um, I was definitely smarter than my mom at a young age, so it's real hard to trick children. A lot of parents trick children into getting to do what they want, and none of that stuff worked on me. So I think she turned and this was back in I was born in '79, and back then, um, in the mid '80s, there was this kind of tough love movement that happened. I think it was kind of a result of the Satanic Panic thing, but I my mom, and also back then they started medicating children a lot, and my mom bought that hook, line, and sinker. I was put on tremendous amount of drugs. I don't remember the names of them because they all filter through the mind of a 7 year old back then. But I remember there was Prozac. I remember lithium, Silert, Dexedrine, Clonidine, Ritalin, and there were more. I just don't know the names, or the names I think they are. I don't know if those are real drugs or not because it's all memory from back then. And I remember my dad left when I was young, or my parents got divorced, and I always thought my dad left. But now, as an adult and having trying to have an adult relationship with my mom, I think my dad didn't leave. I think he escaped. He I think he tried. I think he tried really hard to work with her. I think he tried really hard to get custody, and back then dads didn't get custody. I think he tried. I think he tried. I don't know. Um, but my mom was just very punitive. We got punished for things we didn't do. I don't. I remember trying really hard to garner my mom's affections and to. I mean, isn't that the story? I think the story of my life. I've spent my whole life just trying to get my mom to like me, or to become something that I thought would be worthy of her love. And my mom was always doing my mom was like a Donna Reed. Like, she was like, everything had to be perfect all the time. And she did a lot of she my mom majored in home economics and was a flight attendant in the which they called stewardesses back then. And uh in order to try to get my mom to talk to me or pay attention to me, I would ask to learn to do crafts. So I learned to knit and crochet and cross stitch and needle point. I could make you a pot holder out of nylon stretchy loops, or I could make you paper flowers. I could do origami. I could quilt you something. I can do all those things. I have a latch hook rug of Carl Sagan I'm working on. Um, because those were the times when my mom would interact with me at all. If she wasn't yelling or in trouble. I got in trouble for a lot of things I did. I got in trouble for a lot of things I didn't do. I got punished. My mom would collect punishments. She would remember things I had done, and then since she had no way of punishing me because she took everything away, she'd wait until I wanted to do something and say, "No, you can't do that because 2 weeks ago you did something wrong." It was very, very difficult. Um, I'm a big dude now, but all of the amphetamine based drugs really stunted my growth. I was under 100 pounds in high school. I was a tiny, tiny kid with a big fat mouth. Got got me shit canned a lot of times. Got trash canned a bunch. Because I could I would I'd hold my own verbally, just not physically. And you know I remember just not ever like home was just so scary and upsetting, and I remember the feeling of being home because we were home alone all day, and no one ever talked to my brother, which is weird because now to this day he has a bizarre speech affect, and I don't know if that's just because no one ever talked to him for years, and I remember the feeling when the garage door would open. I could hear we were home alone all day. Then you'd hear the garage door opening, which meant my mom was home, and that's when you never knew what was going to happen. You didn't know how much trouble you were going to get in. You didn't know what was going to get taken away, and it got to the point where I everything I ever liked, my mom would take it away or punish me with it. So I learned to play with toys in front of her that I didn't like and hide things I liked just so that she didn't know about them. I would pretend to be interested in friends that I didn't like or music or bands so that when I got punished, those things got taken away. And instead I had to pretend to be somebody different in order to just be. It was very bizarre. And even to this day, when somebody asks me, what do you want to do? Or what do you, I won't share it. And it's still like baked in. I don't know why. It's because I'm afraid that if I tell you what I want, then that's going to be the first thing I lose. So I'm never going to let you know what it is I want. I just want you to read my mind and give it to me. Because and that goes on later on with relationships with women uh, which is real fun for them. They really love that when you want them to read your mind in order to adjust or change their behavior. Um, and I remember I think I was like 16 or something, and I forgot to lock the house when I left for somewhere. And so I lost house privileges. And from that day forward, I lived in a tool shed in the backyard, and there was a cot and a camping toilet from a sporting goods store. And I didn't get to go back in the house again. And I refused to use that toilet. I never opened the box. I felt like it was somehow acquiescing to my captors, like like a prisoner who's on a hunger strike or something. I would I would shit in a bag and throw it over the fence of my mom's backyard, believe it or not. And I threw it on the freeway. I don't know if I hit any cars or not. That's awful. Um, but I still went to school from the shed. I told some teachers knew, and they sent people to check it out. And because all of my like I was being fed and I was clean because I kept myself clean and stuff. The cops were like, well, there's he's in a shed and there's a cot and a toilet. Like there's nothing we can do. So I realized that there weren't any authorities that were going to help me. It was just the way it was, and it's really weird because I remember being 17. I was younger than everybody else in high school. I graduated at 17, and I remember the other kids were talking about going to college, And I asked my mom, how do I do that? What do I have to do? And my mom said, oh, honey, you're not going to college. That's not for you. And I remember being just so, I remember thinking, I can't wait till I turn 18, not because I thought that like I was going to go live my life, but because I thought this one would end. I didn't think I'd live past 18. I just thought I'd turn 18 and it would all just go away and I'd just be dead and it would just be over. Not suicidal, but ideation, but more like just loss of existence. You know, I didn't know what the plan was after 18. No one had ever prepared me for anything. I didn't have a social security card. I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have anything. I didn't know how to do anything. I wasn't, when we were kids, we weren't allowed to cook. We were allowed to make cereal. So we would have 12 bowls of cereal a day. That was it. And we would eat top ramen out of the cup without water and just with a fork, like break it. And I remember when Easy Mac came out, you could just put the water in and straight in the microwave, and it was like gourmet food. We could finally have like a meal we could cook when my parents weren't around or my mom wasn't around. It was my stepdad. My mom remarried, and he was a very physical guy. Uh, he used to smack us around a lot. It wasn't hitting like with a closed fist, but it was very, very, very physical. He was very much like back then in the '80s. It was real tough love. So, in on the talk shows like Sally Jesse Raphael and Ricky Lake and Donahue and Oprah, they would bring the troubled teens on the panel. And then the drill sergeants would come out and they'd scream in the children's faces and tell them that they were worthless maggots and pieces of trash. And that was somehow supposed to, like, make them value themselves or something to behave better. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with adults where they don't remember being a child. Like, for some reason, like back in the '80s, they didn't think kids had feelings or could feel pain. I don't know what that was about, but I look back on it, it's like you remember being 10, right? Don't you remember being 10? Like you don't remember all of the angst that comes with life, and it's just sudden like kids don't. I don't know what that's about. Um, there's still people that think animals don't have feelings. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with people. Um, and so my stepdad was very much like that. He would yell at us, he'd spit in our faces, he would, put us in holds and kind of, I don't want to say choke us, but, he'd choke us, right? Like, we're not, it's not like passing out choke, but like, it was scary. It was terrifying all the time. And I was terrified of him. And I remember being really like trying lovey-dovey and like, hey, like treating him in a way. And I remember looking back and it was because it was self-preservation. And I hadn't really thought about that. And from his point of view, I just loved him. He didn't know I despised him. Um, so anyway, I graduated high school living in a shed, and my friends paid for grad night, and and then a little while later I turned 18 and I got a job, or I turned 18 and I immediately went to the DMV and got a license because my mom wouldn't let me get a license when I was 17. It needs a parent's, and she wouldn't let me get a work permit or do anything. So I turned 18, I got a driver's license, and then I went and I applied at what I could only think of as the most prestigious job you could possibly get. Just the top job you could possibly ever have, which was a customer service representative at Radio Shack. That was my dream, and I had achieved it. I went to Radio Shack and I worked there and lived in the shed. Luckily, my mom didn't immediately kick me out of the shed at 18, but I mean, I was out of there within a month, and I met a man at Radio Shack. Well, okay. Well, let's talk about drinking. I started drinking at 17. My friends and I would get 40s of King Cobra from the people. We'd get people to buy them at 7-Eleven, and we'd drink. and it was fun. And I didn't really have a lot of consequences back then. And you know, like it was okay. Anyway, so I work at Radio Shack, and I meet this guy Mark, and Mark was a 42-year-old gay dude who had a roommate move out, and Mark and I became fast friends. And he said, I need a roommate. You want to come rent here?" And man, Mark was like a surrogate father to me. Um, I didn't know how to cook. I didn't have a checking account. I didn't know how to do laundry. He taught me how to do all that stuff. He took me to the bank and got me Star Wars checks. And um, you know, I he became my best friend, and I love him very much. He's like a father to me, and it was kind of cool. You know, you'd meet girls, and I'd bring them over to my place, and Mark had the house decorated so good, and I'd bring girls over, and they'd be like, "Wow, this is your place." I'm like, "Yeah, this is my place. Check it out, ladies. See how sophisticated I am." Um, and Mark was real techie, and we talked tech, and he just meant the world to me. We fought, and it was fun, and I lived with him for 2 years, and then I moved in with at my grandmother's house and tried to go back to school, or tried to go to college. I went to community college. Um, I had no direction. I did it for 10 years. I went to community college for 10 years. Um, and you know, I drank a lot, but like partied, karaoke, all that stuff. Met a girl, moved to Ohio, that didn't work out, moved back. All of my romantic endeavors failed because, you know, while they did contribute to problems, it was all me. Um, I was mimicking all my mom's behaviors towards the women in my life, the same way she treated me. I was manipulative. I was gaslighting. I was every ounce of their time had to be spent giving me attention in order to feel fulfilled and safe, because I was constantly afraid of abandonment. So I just, you know, burned through these people who loved me and cared about me and treated me very well, until they didn't, because they couldn't take it anymore. And I moved back. I moved to Ohio, moved back, lived here, went to karaoke all the time, just got shit faced all the time. And then I went to do my taxes one day, and I realized that I had 10 grand in debt. And at the end of the year, the credit card companies send you this little book with all your grouped purchases, and bars and alcohol had 10 grand on it. And I'm like, I've got 10 grand in debt, and I've spent 10 grand at bars. I wonder if there is any correlation. And I didn't have my degree, and I didn't have anything, and I'm like, what am I doing? So I made myself a little plan, and I said, I'm not going to drink until I get my degree and my debt is zero. So I enrolled at Vanguard Christian University as an atheist, because they had a really cool adult studies program, and it's supposed to be their secular program. Anytime a Christian tells you it's a secular program, bullshit, bullshit. Um, it wasn't. We prayed, yeah, because secular programs, we pray before each meeting here, right? Um, and I did it. I went for 2 years, and I graduated. And I invited my mom to the graduation, and my uncle and my friends and everything. And I went and I walked, and then the graduation was over, and I came down and I met my friends, and I'm like, "Where's my mom?" And everyone's like, "Oh, she left." And I was like, "What do you mean she left? Like, she left right after the ceremony?" And they're like, "No, she left at like the beginning." And I'm like, "She didn't see me walk? Like, why?" And they're like, "I don't know. She said she had something she had to do." I'm like, "Okay." So I talked to my mom later, and I asked her like, what happened? She goes, "Oh, I had work. I had to go." I'm like, "You had work? Like, I you knew what day my graduation was weeks in advance, months in advance. You could have just gotten that day." And it wasn't like a midnight graduation. It was like at 5. We were done by 7. I don't know, like what kind of, like she literally wanted to do something, so I noticed she would be gone, and I'm still wrapping my head around that. It still didn't make sense. It's only in retrospect that I look back and start really putting the pieces together. That I've got like my parent is like rooting against me, like wanting me to fail, and I'm still can't quite grasp that. And that was really, really hurtful and sucked. But I did it. I went to school and I paid for it. And the whole reason I went to college was because my mom said I wasn't going to college, and I wanted to like show her that I had some value. Whatever. Um, so I graduated and paid off all my debt and started drinking again. And I drank a lot. I drank a lot, and it got worse and worse. And I was in a relationship with this girl, and we were, it was 5 years, but I think 2 years into it, she was over it, but she realized that she couldn't afford to go to school and break up with me at the same time. So she just didn't, and didn't tell me, and kind of like, cut me off emotionally. And I could sense it. And so I tried everything I could to like reconnect, but I didn't realize that she had already made a decision. And, and then she graduated, and because of that, I was drinking more and more and more. And then she graduated, and of course broke up. Um, and it was really depressing, but I mean, I don't know. We weren't a good match. I was trying to force something that was because I was in it to win it. I wanted to be a good man. A good man doesn't leave. A good man doesn't lie. A good man doesn't do these things. A good man continues to try even when adversity says that you will not succeed. I, I wanted to be that. Um, so anyway, we broke up, and I reconnected with a friend that I had dated uh, in when I was 19 briefly, and we started talking, and I remember saying like my ex never wanted to go to the Grand Canyon, and I always wanted to see it, and she said let's go. So we went to the Grand Canyon, and we fell in love. And um just everything was magical. We met swing dancing, and we would dance everywhere, and people would come up to us. People, strangers in public, would come up to us and say, "Oh, like you guys are perfect. Like, like how is your relationship? Tell me your secrets." And um, it it really was magical and perfect. And I know she would agree. If you asked her right now, she would say it was magical and it was perfect and it was the happiest she ever was. And um, we got married, and I told her when we got married, I said, "There's only two reasons I'm marrying you." And I said it's because I'm self-employed and I need health insurance. But the other reason is because I want to have kids, and I want us all to have the same last name. I don't care if it's my last name. I'll take yours. It doesn't matter. I don't have a hang up about that. I just want all of us to have the same last name. And so we got married, and we went on a honeymoon, and we bought a house. And I bought a house in Orange County, California. And if you're not from this area, it's very difficult to do. It's very, very expensive. Um, I could never afford this house now. Uh, but we snuck in at the right time and got a house in an amazing place, in an amazing area. Like everything, I just love this house and everything about it, and everything was perfect. And I called my mom because I thought, here I am. I am a college graduate who owns a home in Orange County, married to this beautiful woman. Like, I have to have achieved all the things that you would love me for, right? I've done it. I pay my taxes, I have car insurance. I am a productive member of society. I do not have a criminal record. I have an amazing credit score. I did it. I went from the shed, and I did this, and I'm contributing. Like this is what you can tell your friends, that he's such a great son I have. I called my mom and I said, "Hey mom, we bought a house." And she didn't say where or how big, what does it look, how did you guys afford that? Tell me about it. When can I see it? Tell, like, what, how many rooms? What is it? I said, "Mom, I bought a house." And she said, "You bought a house? Who's going to mow the lawn?" And my mom took that opportunity, the most proudest moment that I had had so far, to make fun of me, to mock me, to say, "Hey, you don't do anything. You don't clean, you don't work, you don't mow lawns, you're not, why would you get a house?" And I had a fucking mental breakdown. It was the most, I just, everything fell apart in my mind. And I was drunk, of course, but I went out to the white picket fence in front of my lawn and I ripped the gate off of the hinges. And anyone who's met me and has been to my house, I can show you the broken hinge. Because I fixed it. It was a very cathartic repair. But I ripped it off the hinges and I threw it in the lawn and I fell on my knees and I was just crying in the middle of the night because I could not get this woman to see any value in me whatsoever. Nothing of nothing redeeming about Scott to Linda. And it just, I couldn't come back from that. And I think it scared the shit out of my wife. I think it really scared her. And then, 2016 happened, and if I was in a different room, maybe I'd say something else. But like, I mean, fucking Trump made everything really weird and scary, and made the future seem so unsure. And you got like all these things we're combating as a society between climate change and income inequality and um, I don't even know, like we can talk about that forever. And it just felt so hopeless. And I think Beth really didn't feel comfortable bringing a child in. And then when I'm just like freaking out, like everything just kind of fell apart. And um, she had gone and taken out her IUD, and we went to have kids, and she panicked and she said, "I can't do this. I don't want to have kids anymore." And I was devastated. It was the I can't I can't tell you enough how much of my identity was wrapped up in the concept of being a father. And I think uh if you look in the pie chart of reasons to be a father for myself, on top of all of the standard ones, I want to be a father, I want to, take, like, bring this life and all these things. But I think inside there was this part where if I could raise a productive member of society who was good and loved me, and I could do a good job, that, well, I would find out. I mean, like, maybe I'd raise a kid and be like, "This is fucking awful, and this is horrible, and this kid's awful, and my mom's right, and I owe her an apology, and I should go back to her and say, you know what, mom, I was so hard to raise, and you tried, and I know it was rough, and I love you, and I'm sorry, and I apologize." Or I raised this awesome kid and everything's awesome and he's valedictorian. And I say to my mom, "What the fuck is wrong with you? What? Look, it's," and I could somehow be validated that I wasn't a bad kid. And then another part of me was like, maybe I could somehow, like, in this universe, undo the damage that was done to young Scott by creating a better person than myself. Um, and it didn't happen. And um, we kind of decided, like, I just drank a lot. I mean, we didn't have kids, I didn't have responsibilities, and the drinking got worse and worse. And at first it was fun, weird, freaky, deaky sex and drinking and partying and all kinds of stuff. And then she, like, went back and got her master's and was excelling in work, and I kept wondering, like, okay, so if we're not going to have kids, what are we going to do? Are we a couple that travels? Do we start a business? Are we going to Good in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest amount of jump roping. I don't know, like what does Scott and Beth do now as this couple? And she said, I don't know. I like she wouldn't give me an answer. And I started getting really resentful and really mean and really snarky. And I remember things like my wife would ask me like, "Oh, where do you want to eat tonight?" And inside of my head, the voice would say, "What does it matter where I want to eat? Because if I want to eat somewhere and you want to eat somewhere different, where I want to go doesn't get happen. We automatically do what you want to do because that's the way we do it. So why do you even ask me? Why don't we just do what you want to do and we just go do that?" Because if we both want to have kids and then you change your mind, we don't still have a kid because I want to have kids. We stop. We don't do anything because you get the ultimate veto. So why don't you just tell me where we're going to eat and I'm going to smile and be drunk and then I'll be happy and everything will be fine. And I got meaner and I got more resentful and I got drunker and drunker and I hid the alcohol. I I I don't know why she didn't know I was drinking. She was a nurse in LA at the ER in midnight shift, which is where all the cops send all the drunks. Uh, so she knew all the signs of all levels of alcoholism. Maybe it was just couldn't see the forest from the trees. Maybe I don't know, but it got to the point where I would just punish her every way I could. She thought it would she I remodeled a bathroom and she loved the vinyl floor tile that I put in, and so she pulled up the carpet in her office, but underneath the floor was really damaged, and so it's going to need to be repaired. And instead of letting her fix it, I just kept like making her live in this like floor that was damaged. And like anything I could do, like she'd say, "Well, let's go visit my mom," and I'm like, "No, I'm not going. You can go." I'd stay home. She'd go to Denver. She'd want to go on trips. Mm-mm. I just got more and more bitter, more and more punitive, more and more snarky, more and more short. Um, Basically just making her miserable on purpose because I was miserable. I was so hurt and so sad and so angry and so I felt like a chump. I felt like somebody who like I married you because we were going to do this thing and then you change your mind. That's not fair. Why did I get duped? Why? And I should have left. I should have just said I love you, but I got to do this and I got to. But instead, because I don't have boundaries, I just did it, and I just got angrier and angrier, and kept it inside, and then drank it away. And I remember my wife and I were walking down the street one day. I was hiding all this alcohol from her. It got out of control. I was up to 50 drinks a day. And when I say 50 drinks, I don't mean like 50 drinks. I mean like okay, so one shot, 1.5 ounces, 90 proof is one drink. A 12 ounce, 4.55% beer is one drink, or 4 to 6 ounces of 14 to 16% wine is a drink. I was drinking 50 drinks. One handle, 1.75 liters is 39 and a half shots. And that was what I was hiding from her. And then we would go out and I'd drink 10 more, and that's 50. And we were walking, and I had to hide all this. I had to hide all this glass from her. I had to sneak it out at 3 in the morning and throw it away at the bus stop. And I remember we took a walk and we walked to the circle and back. And we're walking past the bus stop, and I don't know who did it. Maybe a homeless person. I don't know. Somebody had taken all of the stuff out of the trash can next to the bus stop. And you know how hippies like to stack rocks at campsites? Well, somebody did that with all the bottles. And they made this amazing sculpture out of all of my empties. Dozens of dozens, like over 100. And Beth says, "Wow, somebody had a party. That's crazy." And all of them mine, every single one. I'm like, "Oh, somebody must have a drinking problem. That's crazy. I don't know what. That's just, that's ridiculous." But they're all mine, paid for with her credit card. Um. Anyway, it got worse and worse, and I was doing edibles and everything, and it was her birthday, April. No, I mean March 30th was her birthday, and she gets really excited on her birthdays, and she like just stops hosting when she gets really excited at parties. When people show up, she just stops hosting, and then all of a sudden, like all these things that have to get done, I like run around and do them. And before her birthday, I said, "You're not going to do that thing you do at your birthday, are you? Where you like just drop what you're doing and leave everything to me." Not the thing to say to a person before their birthday that you love. And she's crying before her birthday, and then we have her birthday, and I'm still a dick. I'm just a dick all the time. And then on the first, on the 2nd of April, uh, we go out to lunch because she's like, well, it's the day after the party because she had the party on the first, and I'm walking around kind of cleaning up, and I'm drinking the empties from other people, like not the empties, the leftover cups. So I'm going around cleaning up red Solo cups and drinking them that have like lipstick marks on them. They're not mine. They're yesterday's things, and I she goes, "What do you want to do today?" And I said, "Well, we've been doing all this stuff for you. What do you say we do something for me? We go out for barbecue or something." So we went out to barbecue, and I did some more edibles, and I was getting drunk. My health, oh, go back. My health has been failing. My my lungs are filling with fluid. I'm starting to, because I'm drinking 50 drinks a day. My legs are swelling up. I can barely walk. My vision is off. My blood pressure is through the roof. I had a stroke, a transient ischemic attack, and I'm hiding all this from her. When I crawl into bed, I don't take my pants off until after I get under the covers, so she can't see my ankles, because she's a nurse and she's going to see the pitting edema on my shins. I'm sweating all the time. Every time I go into withdrawal, I just blame it on COVID. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention COVID happened, and then I went from like, the little leagues of drinking to fucking the Olympics. Brought home gold for America. And so we go out to this barbecue place, and I'm gonna get a whole rack of ribs. I'm gonna eat half and take the other half home for leftovers because that sounds fun. And I remember thinking, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And then I woke up, and there's vomit all over the table. There's vomit all over myself, and my wife is covered head to toe in my vomit. And I'm coming in and out of consciousness, and then the EMT arrives, or the paramedics, and they come up next to me, and they're trying to get me in the gurney, and I'm fighting them because all I can think of is America. It's gonna cost me so much. So I don't. And the paramedic gets down on one knee, and he gets right 1 inch from my face, and he looks me in the eye, and he says, "You look like shit." And I said, "Okay, I'll get in the gurney." So I got in, and I passed out again, in and out, and I woke up in the hospital in the ER, and my wife was there, and she had clean clothes for me, and she had a look on my face that I've seen a couple times before, and I knew that meant it was over. And not only did I ride alone in the ambulance, but she had to walk home from the barbecue place covered in vomit. And then she had to go home and change and get me clothes. And then she had to walk to the hospital because she couldn't drive because we'd been drinking. And then they released me from the hospital, and we walked home. And she said, I'm gonna go see my mom." And she left. And then she came back, and on the 13th she told me, "It's over. We're done. I'm leaving." And um it's just surreal, and it's the most painful thing, and I haven't drank since then. And the bittersweetness of it is that if she hadn't done that, I would not have quit drinking, and I'd probably be dead. And there's no way that I could both quit and keep her. I had to lose her in order to live. And a that was not a purchase I wanted to make. That was not a trade that was mine, that I agreed to. Um, but nonetheless, it was the offer I was given, the only choice I had. So I checked myself into an intensive outpatient program and was able to get get sober. And I've not nothing but good things to say about my IOP. They were pretty amazing, and um, and then I found this place, and I found a lot of fellowship, and there's like 90,000 other things that I can talk about. Uh, when people say like, "Oh, do you think you want to fill the 45 minutes?" I was like, I don't think I'll have enough time in 45 minutes, and I don't. But uh, here I am. I am 370 days sober, and I've decided to cut out pot on my birthday as well. So that would be four for marijuana. And I don't know. I just feel like I'm gonna live, and I'm gonna be fine. But I'm never gonna stop loving her. She I had to lose her in order to get myself back, and that really, really has been painful and really difficult. And I think I'm just running out of steam now. I got more to talk about, but I think this is a good stopping spot. Um, I see a lot of faces in here that I don't know, and I see a lot of faces in here that I do and that I love very, very much. Um, People who I can I can call at any time, and I can just say, "Hey, I need you to listen to me for this 1 second, because this is really I've you get into AA and you get really good about talking about your feelings, and then you turn over to the person in the supermarket next to you, and you're like, "Hi, I'm Scott, alcoholic. How does that make you feel when when you and they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with this person?" But I'm used to it now, and I think I'm a better person now. I mean, this is the best version of me. Uh, I hope that I don't hurt people like I used to. I know I'm really abrasive. I understand that I have a very aggressive personality. Um, I think it comes from just self-preservation as a child, and it just doesn't always translate well. But I generally want the best for everyone, and I'll always try to give up something if I think it will benefit them more. Um, I just want you guys to know how much I've gotten from this group, and how much I love you, and how little confidence I have that I might have been able to do this literally without AANP. And I'm gonna try to give back a little bit, but if I don't know, you guys are one of the best thing that's ever happened to me, and for that I really thank you sincerely. And I'm gonna try to treat everyone better. All right, I'm done. Thank you guys.